In the beginning of October 1520, Ferdinand Magellan left the port of Buenos Aires in search of a fabled strait that now bears his name. Like Magellan, only 1 month and 494 years later, we set out from the port of Buenos Aires on a southward voyage. And like Magellan's ship Victoria, our vessel was hugging the coastline in search of the passage to the other side of the South American continent. Unlike Magellan, however, we were distracted by a group of islands on our port side. 300 years after Magellan's passage, Falkland Islands were visited by another famous explorer. Charles Darwin's ship HMS Beagle was anchored for many months in Berkeley Sound, just a few miles north of where we were landing, at Port Stanley. Because of the rough seas, we were carried ashore by small crafts called tenders. Darwin's first impression of the Falklands, recorded in 1833, was accurate enough. The land is low and undulating, with a desolate and wretched aspect, he wrote. We disembarked and immediately realized that there was a misunderstanding, because this could not possibly be spring. Hats, scarves, gloves, and parkas were out, while the wind was trying to take our heads off. Our first impression of Port Stanley, a quaint fishing village in northern England. Islanders are descendants of shipwrecked sailors, Arctic whalers, and an occasional fertile Scottish shepherd. The hamlet's population is 2,000, not counting dogs. These tall yellow bushes planted along the coastline are supposed to serve as a windbreak. They are highly flammable. Before gas ovens were introduced on the islands, the branches were used to fire bread ovens. Here we are looking for at least temporary shelter from the wind. This 19th century Anglican church is cozy enough. It has pretty stained glass windows and an interesting interior. The church remembers the time when good part of the population of Port Stanley lived off whaling in Antarctic waters. Next, we seek a few minutes of protection from the wind in the local post office. Here we find that Falkland Islands issue postage stamps that are highly valued and sought after by stamp collectors. They are truly beautiful, as postage stamps go. But to find out more about the islands, we will have to brave the weather. Falklands participated in 2 world wars, as these memorials confirm. However, the most recent war with Argentina, the 1982 conflict, figures significantly in the island's memory, and at the cemetery, where all the fallen heroes get the best view. The inhabitants of Falkland Islands are vastly outnumbered by penguins and sheep. Penguins, being of vastly superior intelligence than sheep, even have their own local media outlet. At Penguin News, we found all there is to know about penguins. To encounter penguins in their native habitat, we traveled west from Port Stanley to Bluff Cove Lagoon. In 1834, Charles Darwin visited the same lagoon on horseback and, like us, encountered 3 different species of penguins that roost or spend summers there. The penguins with distinct yellow markings on the head and neck are the king penguins. The brown penguin on the left is their adolescent chick before molting, that is shedding its brown baby down feathers at the age of 2. Each king penguin couple produces only 1 egg and takes turns sitting on it. Here are gentoo penguins roosting, that is, sitting on their eggs. There are over 1,000 breeding gentoo pairs in this lagoon. The space is tight, and their nests are side by side, so neighborly spots with occasional face slapping are bound to occur. Exchange of insults usually follows, and then all is well again. The third species of penguins visiting this lagoon in spring and summer are Magellanic penguins. It was right here that Charles Darwin met his first penguin of Magellanic species. He wrote, "This bird is commonly called the jackass penguin, from its habit of throwing its head backwards and making loud, strange noise, very like braying of an ass." Personal hygiene is very important for all penguins. Sometime during the day, each will make its way to the beach to bathe, swim, frolic, and hunt for food. Here on the sand, the penguin community is fully integrated. On October 21st, 1520, Magellan entered the strait that is named after him. On November 14, 2016, we followed in his footsteps. His voyage was cold and treacherous. We made port at Punta Arenas, Chile, on a bright and sunny day. The highest point in Punta Arenas affords a panoramic view of the city. You can see the calm blue waters of the Magellan Strait on the horizon and our ship safely docked at the quay. The port of Punta Arenas used to be very busy with maritime traffic trading fish, mutton, and wool. Then the Panama Canal was opened, and the city became what it is today, a sleepy little outpost at the end of the world. History of this settlement is all concentrated between the main plaza, Natural History Museum, and the cemetery. We begin our tour on Plaza Munoz Gamero, surrounded by 19th century opulent homes, which used to be private residences of famously rich wool barons. The wool barons started out as sheep farmers, and wool exports made them filthy rich. On the north side of the plaza, the city cathedral was conveniently located for the city elite, just a short walk from home for the Sunday Mass. On this morning, the sun was out, but shining very feebly, and it failed to warm up the air. The temperature at midday was 5 degrees Celsius. On the main plaza, locals were peddling scarves, hats, and gloves, all very much needed immediately and for our journey ahead. Next to the stalls, the statue of Ferdinand Magellan, founded by one of the wool barons in 1920 to commemorate the 400 years of his passage. Maggiorino Borgatello Museum is a mouthful, but also a very good natural history collection assembled by an Italian padre in 1893. Thanks to him, we can examine exhibits of local fauna and flora and large assortment of relics of native folklore, local Indian tribes, now extinct. They say the most reliable historical record of places and people is to be found at the cemeteries. The one in Punta Arenas is truly remarkable. The basic architectural layout and the land purchase was financed by Mrs. Sarah Brown in 1923. She was a wife of one of the notoriously rich local wool barons. Beautifully landscaped main alleys lead to splendid mausoleums that commemorate rich pioneer elite. On the narrow side path, the headstones tell the stories of immigrants from Germany and Scandinavia, but also from Croatia and Russia. The statue in the background portrays the last native Indian from the now extinct Ona tribe who's buried here. The locals considered his statue miraculous. The tablets surrounding the bronze cast are thanks for answered prayers. That afternoon, we visited a very interesting site. This is an actual-size replica of Magellan's ship Victoria, one of the 5 that set out from Cadiz in 1520, and the only one to return to its mother port after a 3-year journey around the globe. It seems very small indeed. Next to it is a life-size replica of Darwin's HMS Beagle, still under construction. Under the command of Captain Fitzroy, the ship set out in 1834 on a 5-year scientific expedition. Charles Darwin served as a naturalist on board. He was then 22 years old. We are stubbornly making our way to the end of the world. The city of Ushuaia is at the southern tip of Tierra del Fuego, which is the territory of Argentina. If one is to believe the old real estate rule, location, 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 Ushuaia is definitely it. The Andes' most southern reach, snow-capped Marshall Range, is the backdrop for the city's stunning location. Ushuaia lies at the threshold of dazzling outdoor adventures, a very long ski season with nearly perfect conditions, and in the summer almost endless days of hiking, sailing and kayaking just minutes from town. The town is in the midst of government-sponsored expansion, population rise and exponentially increasing tourism. The result is somewhat haphazard development and just too many cars for old narrow streets. Despite all this new construction, Ushuaia still manages to preserve its air of a frontier town. When Magellan was passing through the strait that now bears his name, looking to the left he saw the coastline and the fires set along the shores by native tribes called Yagans or Yamana, hence the name Tierra del Fuego, Land of Fires. Yamana people were nomadic tribes that populated Tierra del Fuego and the coastline along the Magellan Strait. They were so well adapted to the climate that they braved the brutal weather almost naked and never built permanent shelters. Charles Darwin in his journal called them the lowest form of humanity on Earth. Yet they persisted for 6,000 years only to succumb to European colonization and disease. At the time of our visit, there were only 2 people remaining that spoke their language and identified themselves as Yamana. They were in their 80s. Ushuaia was the first permanent settlement of whalers and gold prospectors on Tierra del Fuego. In 1884, Argentina chose the spot to build a penal colony. Most notorious criminals were sent to Ushuaia. The prison was permanently closed only in 1947. 50 minutes away from the city, on an antique railway built by the prisoners, or 30 minutes by bus, are the gates to Tierra del Fuego National Park. You can enjoy views of misty snow-capped mountains on slow, down-current river ride on a kayak or a canoe, or go for a hike around Lake Asigami, where thousands of years ago, Yamana people were hunting and fishing in their dugout canoes. The path leads along the shore. Watch your step. Because there are so many fossils and interesting outcropping of rocks, you can get very easily distracted. Further along the path, there's plentiful evidence that spring has arrived, and it has already been busy beautifying the world. It is November 17, heavily overcast. Outdoor temperature 5 degrees Celsius. Wind southwesterly at 35 knots. This is our last push south to the southernmost outcropping that is still a part of this continent. The infamous Cape Horn, El Cabo de Hornos, Chile. Beyond lies Drake Passage in Antarctica. This is the most dangerous ship passage in the world. Dutch sailors discovered this route in 1616. They complained about the violent weather, fierce winds, colossal waves, strong currents, and icebergs. Waters around the Cape are a graveyard of ships and men that went down with them. The sculpture of albatross erected on the rock keeps the memory of all who perished here. I, the albatross that awaits you at the end of the world. I, the forgotten soul of all the sailors lost, goes the verse by Sarah Vial, a Chilean poet. The legend has it that the sailor who survives the rounding of the Horn is entitled to wear a hoop earring in his left ear and dine with one foot on the table. At the arch of the foot that is Grand Island of Tierra del Fuego, the land is fractured into bays, inlets, islands, rocks, channels, fjords, and lagoons. During his 5-year journey on HMS Beagle, Darwin explored many of them on his way from Cape Horn to the Pacific. The waterways HMS Beagle navigated and many features of the frigid and forbidding land that Darwin explored are now named after him or after his ship. And so we sailed past the Darwin Range and through the Beagle Channel and further north through Darwin Channel. The most dramatic views in the Beagle Channel were in the section called Glacier Alley. From the rugged snow-capped peaks on the northern shore of the channel, 5 gigantic glaciers descend to the edge of the water. The massive turquoise-white rivers of ice with names like Alemania, Romanche, and Hollanda spawn raging streams. Waterfalls, and icebergs. As we were navigating north along the Chilean coast, we left behind us the wide waterway of the Magellan Strait, and Gulf of Sarmiento open to the Pacific Ocean. During this part of the passage, we realized that Norway did not hold the monopoly on scenic fjords and rugged landscapes. They just spent more money on advertising. The waters of Channel Sarmiento take us north as far as 50 degrees 52 minutes south and 74 degrees west, where we enter a Peel Fjord, which is about 45 kilometers long. Halfway up Peel Fjord branches off into Asia Fjord. El Brujo Glacier is found at the end of Asia, spilling from the southern flank of the Patagonian icefield. Around us, water mirrors the sky and appears to be thicker than normal. We are surrounded by deep silence, broken only by sudden cries of birds flying overhead. At the entrance to Asia Fjord, the weather changes abruptly. Heavy dark clouds roll in and the temperature suddenly dips. We are all out on deck, bundled in our hats, scarves, and gloves. Around this corner, we can already see one side of El Brujo coming into view. The skies are darker still, and the surface of water is covered with ice chips from the glacier. El Brujo's surface is much wider and bluer than the glaciers we have seen before. We can't move in any closer because of the risk of glacier calving. That is, large pieces of ice breaking off and crashing into the water. We linger a few minutes longer, and then it begins to snow.